Religious trauma syndrome. So, as someone who undoubtedly suffered from religious trauma syndrome, which I will call RTS from now on, for quite some time after I first left my religion, I thought I would take a minute to explain what it is, how it impacted me, and why it is important that it be recognized. So, reading directly from the Wikipedia page on RTS, quote, RTS is not present in the Diagnostic and Statistical Manual, DSM 5, or any DSM 5 TR, text revision materials, nor is it represented in the ICD 10, but it has been recognized by individual psychologists and psychotherapists as a set of symptoms ranging in severity experienced by those who have participated in or left behind authoritarian, dogmatic, and controlling religious groups and belief systems. Symptoms include cognitive, affective, functional, and social/cultural issues, as well as developmental delays. RTS occurs in response to twofold trauma. First, the prolonged abuse of indoctrination by a controlling religious community, and second, the act of leaving the controlling religious community. RTS has developed its own heuristic collection of symptoms informed by psychological theories of trauma originating in PTSD, CPTSD, and betrayal trauma theory, taking relational and social context into account when approaching further research and treatment. The wiki goes on to list symptoms of RTS as cognitive, confusion, difficulty with decision making and critical thinking, dissociation, and identity confusion. Affective, anxiety, panic attacks, depression, suicidal ideation, anger, grief, guilt, loneliness, and lack of meaning. Functional, sleep and eating disorders, nightmares, sexual dysfunction, substance abuse, and stomatization. Social and cultural, rupture of family and social network, employment issues, financial stress, problems acculturating into society, and interpersonal dysfunction. Developmental delay, emotional, intellectual, social, and sexual immaturity resulting from the control of information and discouragement of critical thinking within the religious environment. So, with what it is out of the way, I would like to share how it affected me personally. So, as you may already know from my 5-part series on my deconversion, I was raised as a fundamentalist Southern Baptist in a church that implicitly supported the literal interpretation of the Bible. I was, however, starting at around 14, a closeted bisexual. And if you know anything about Baptists, you know how they feel about homosexuality. So I fought an internal battle against myself for almost a decade over my sexuality. My life was one big cycle of gay thoughts, self-hatred, resentment, repression, and repentance. I knew, because of the teachings of my church, that I was going to burn in the lake of fire for all of eternity for something that was seemingly beyond my control. After I dropped religion like a bag of bricks, I started showing symptom after symptom of RTS. After almost a decade of being an atheist, I've gone through and checked off just about every single symptom that I listed just a minute ago. Like, I've gone through periods where I could have checked off every single symptom all at once. I'm doing much better now, but trauma doesn't just go away. I currently see a therapist weekly to deal with it, but since RTS is not recognized by the majority of therapists, it's hard to talk about it, especially if you know that your therapist is religious, which I do. Which brings me to my final point, the importance of getting it recognized by the DSM-5 and the ICD-10. As I've said, RTS is only recognized by certain individual psychologists and psychotherapists. Currently, it is not institutionally recognized as something with which someone can be professionally diagnosed. Yet, I see symptoms of RTS in a lot of atheists that I know and believe that it is a pervasive problem within the ex-religious community. And with that community growing daily, it has become more important than ever that we are recognized and that the mental health issues related to our deconstruction and/or deconversion be properly addressed and treated. I know that if I had been diagnosed with RTS from the outset, my life would have been less full of suffering and trauma, for me and everyone around me. It's hard to imagine where I could be today if I had just had a proper diagnosis from the beginning, instead of having to piece it together piece by piece. So, for the well-being of those of us who have left religion and those of us who will leave it in the future, we have to be open about our struggles with mental illnesses and seek professional help for them. Those of us who are lucky enough not to have suffered still need to advocate for those of us who did and still do. We need to make our voices heard so that we can get the treatment we deserve. Nobody should suffer alone. So, if you are suffering, reach out to someone. Don't be afraid to ask for help. Just know that if you think you have no one, you have me and the entire community at your back. I'm here for you, we're here for you, and as I said in the dedication of my book, you are not alone.